Flight boss, bitch, for sure. You're not listening to the mind of an Terry's Moon, Flight boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now I want to talk about shapes. Now, people not understanding the magical essence of shapes. When things take shape and form, see, we have to pay very close attention to the words that we use. When things take shape and form, it's taking that shape and form out of a vibration. That vibration comes from a frequency. The frequency is the idea and the concept of it. So the idea and the concept shooting off in the line of events, the timeline, the direction of it. Then for it to move in there and experience time and age and movement and motion, it has to vibrate. So vibrating is it actually moving and manifesting that actual shape and form from the shapeless, formless realm. And actually, when it vibrates, that creates space, room, and opportunity for that shapeless, formless item or frequency to vibrate enough and have enough experience and rainbow waters added to it to become and be paid attention to enough to become the actual shape and form that's going to take place and take up that space and location. So when we look at shapes are very important because they let us know what's higher on the evolution scale than per se another shape. For an example, we have beings. Now the title of this video may throw you off, but for the most part, reason why I called it the triangle beings and the square beings, because look, when you look at it, I drew it out for you. Now look at this. You see the triangle and then you see the square. I slanted the square, so whatever y'all want to call that one, I forgot what the name is. But for the most part, when you stand up, right, keep your hands to your side. Spread your legs out. You make a triangle. When you look at a square, any animal from the side looks like a square. Now, this doesn't necessarily just cling on to animals and humans, because you have some animals on the spiritual path of the triangle, which is the animals that can stand upright. Right? And then you have some humans on an evolutionary path of going back to animalistic nature, animal down. Now, when you look at your animalistic natures, things that you do that revolves around the frequency vibrations of animalistic nature, which is like sex and eating and things of that nature, a lot of that is done in this shape and form, in this frequency vibration. Sitting down, you are making a square. See what I'm saying? You're having sex. You're getting down into the square position, right? Now, anytime you're doing any type of spiritual traveling or enlightenment or meditation or anything of that nature, you create this. Even when you're sitting down. When you're sitting down and cross your legs, you create a triangle. Anytime you're thinking, you have a point of reference, right, to bring down here. Now, you still share similar traits to this based upon what? Your bottom half. What did I tell you to spread out for you to look like a triangle? Your legs. You see what I'm saying? So, when you do your spiritual understandings of shapes, now then you're going to start to understand why. Because a lot of people start asking questions, well, what makes the triangle higher than the square? Now, like I said, let's talk about experiences real fast. Now, experiences. As far as your physical truth, which is your energetic truth, that's energy. So that's time, history, lineage, point of reference, yang realm, non-physical to physical. Then when you talk about your soul truth, it's things you resonate with, things you vibrate with, things you can connect to. When we talk about so either things that you want to detach to or things that you can point to that you want to disconnect to or attach to, that's your soul truth, resonating. Then your spiritual truth is mythology, ideas, concepts and ideas that you agree with more, frequency lines that you rather go with. So when you in a life surrounded in a location around people, places, and things that don't cater to your ideas and thoughts, this is where you can get lost. Because you're not spiritually connected to these things. It don't matter if it's friends, family, whatever. You have to, or the location. You have to move, or the area code. I'm gonna do a video on area codes. These are codes to your area. So based upon even your numerology sign and things of that nature, that's gonna correlate to a lot of other things. But we're gonna get to that video next. So when we talk about Now, as far as me bringing that up, now, as far as your now physical truth, right? You want to experience, you have to experience this realm of reality of lights and illusions and shapes and forms and non-physical to physical and the energies. That's just the physical realm, the energy realm. You have to experience to know what you don't want to experience, what you have experienced already, and what experiences you may need to attach to in order for you to take new shapes and forms and not get stuck into reincarnation, and you can start getting into the path of incarnation. You see what I'm saying? So you can experience new realms of realities and lights and solar systems and planetary constellations and things of that nature. Now, your spirit give information to your individual spirit, which is your soul. So you get the collective information, and then you understand it from an individual point of view, which that's just your soul. And how you put that out in the world, you have to utilize a vessel, which is a body in the energy realm. So your spirit is the frequency realm. It gives all the information from that world, from that's the collective world that you're moving through as a spirit. You're still there as a spirit. This is how you spiritually understand things, right? The mythology and shit. Now, you gain information and you give that to your soul, which is you start to understand it spiritually as an individual. You become an individual soul now. Now, you can't express these individual thoughts from the outlook of the frequency realm because your soul is the vibration realm. But the vibration realm is the shapeless, formless astral realm. You need a body to use. So you could create a body in that rainbow waters. You could create a body in that realm based upon what you're resonating with, what you go through towards natural selection, which as far as your frequency vibration and your direction from your spirit, what you aim for. You see what I'm saying? Then to move in there, you have to vibrate, get into the rainbow waters and share the colors, the emotions and the feelings and the experience and the time. Then that's going to create certain bodies, certain orbs, certain spaces, certain realms, certain lights, certain gases that you could jump into to experience that world and be able to add on, and develop it. So we know as a spirit, you're here to detach from experiences, right? To get light again, lighten your load. But to do that, you have to know what experiences it is. This is why you vibrate, be an individual spirit, which is a soul, and based upon your ability to express it within a body, that's gonna determine how much attention you get or how much attention you don't get, but how big of a source you are or whatever. But people only can see that through a body. But for your body to even move is a soul to move through this vessel. So, this is you being an individual and picking your own specific body for this experience that you want to experience, for all this information that your spirit is given. So then you give the information which you resonate with and what you want to manifest here as a body. So now that we got out that way, that's going to let you know what to determine what you want to experience, what you need to detach from, and what you already have been experiencing, and what new experiences you need to go into. Now, so you're on a spiritual path, it's here to lessen experiences. Because if you already been here for a while, for an example, if you're in a human body right now, and you create and you controlling all these star systems, then you're on a path of you needing to detach. So it's a lot of experiences and a lot of things that's realities that's represented for you here in front of you right now to reawaken you to realize, okay, this ain't something I need to keep repeating, or this is something I need to get into, or this, you see what I'm saying? It's going to play out in that way. Now, you're here to detach a lot of loads, detach a lot of responsibilities, and to detach a lot of experiences so you can lighten your load. So when you transform, you ain't got a lot of shit added onto your spirit to make you enticed to take on one of these lights again and one of these shapes and forms again. So now that we know the lighten your load up, we know it's to lessen your experience, the lighten your load to be. So if you are in a being that has three sides other than four sides, then you have to put the two together. You have to be spiritually inclined. You have to make sense in the spirit. Once you understand the spirit, you'll know how to correlate and relate things together. It only makes sense to know that triangle beings, a triangle is only three sides, right? A square is four sides. So just by spiritual sense, the triangle being is on a higher evolutionary scale than the square, because the square one has to represent more realms of realities and bounce off more lights and bounce off more reflections in order to understand its perception. This one, it doesn't take as many reflections and many eyeballs or many sights to see the full perspective. See, for an example, this is why a bug or something like that, or a spider, may have like 8 eyes or 6 eyes or 6 legs or something like that to get from point A to point B, but it'll only take you 2 to get from point A to point B. So you are you're higher on the evolutionary scale because it doesn't take you more attributes to receive this realm of reality. You're not in a more density, more hellistic state. You're in a lighter state. You know what I'm saying? You're in a lesser state. So when we talk about the triangle beings and the square beings, now if you want to talk about the circle is always going to be more powerful than these two. You see what I'm saying? The circle always going to be more powerful, but it's how much you can perceive within that circumference, within that circumstance, within that circle, within that circus. So that's always going to be the ram, the womb. So nothing can, the circle could expand and as always can contract. This is why everything is expansion, contraction. All these is made out of the expansion and contraction. So the circle it has no beginning or no end. These have beginnings and ends, but you know where the beginning at. You can't say the triangle beginning is here. You know the beginning is here. The square, it gets lost where the beginning started. And then once you start adding more shapes and pentagons and shit like that, it gets lost into where the beginning has been. And then it starts to understand pattern and shape. And pattern. And once you start to get all those pictures and all those the Da Vinci's and all that shit like that, and the Fibonacci, all that is geared towards pattern. They wouldn't even be able to align their structure up without pattern. So all that is hellistic nature, hellism. You see what I'm saying? Saturn. All that is this structure and pattern, and this is what y'all worship. So y'all need to know that y'all not following the sun. Y'all actually following Saturn. And for all y'all who are worshiping the sun in the realm of reality that the sun is in, it's worshiping Saturn or following Saturn's road, wherever Saturn is going. But that's another video. So as far as triangle being, so when you want to look at the tetryon and the let's say the star, the five star. Now remember, let's go back to the circle. Now as a triangle, right? Y'all could go to my video, The Spiritual Clock, when you make a circle and make the triangle. So it's something from your point of reference. You'll put a 9 up here, a 3, and a 6, and then since it's only 9 numbers, in between you do the from 9, it'll be 8, 7. You know what I'm saying? Then it'll be the 6. Then it'll be the 5, 4. Then it'll be the 3. Then it'll be the 2, 1. So it's only 2 numbers in between the 9. So that's the spiritual clock, right? But that's like a single perception, right? So that's like a single person controlling their own perspective in the 360. But when we get into the star, right? A star, when you actually look at a 5-pointed star, a star is nothing but 5 triangles. So this is a being that have perception of 5 triangles. So if you are just a triangle being, right? Say you didn't gain so much density, so much experience, so much vibration, added so much time. You'd have been here so many times with your spirit and took so many shapes and forms to the point that you develop the information within so many realms of realities that you know what to detach from and you know what to attach to, but you didn't got into a vibration where you like having a certain body, so you want to sustain that body, right? So like ain't nothing wrong with this. You could become a light body, a body that know how to rise but still pertain in a body because you don't necessarily want to leave this existence. That's what this is. It ain't really nothing bad or good when I say hellistic, but you just have to understand it on a spiritual level. So when you look at a star or something like that, that's a being that's on a higher level, but still in this realm of still within a realm of reality. So it has a body, but it's just a spiritual being that knew how to develop a larger body, so it can perceive more of this perception, but still have control. So it has control over more of the perception than just from an individual point of view, from just the one triangle. It has 5 perceptions. You see what I'm saying? And then a circle that it's in creates the 6. So, but this is just for the 5-pointed star. So I'll let you know the 5th dimension is really a planet. You know what I'm saying? This is why planets won't be perceived or give off light like the star to be perceived as a 6-pointed. But it's like a 5-point. But let's get into another video. But for the most part, so that'll be a triangle. That'll be a triangle 5 times. So that's a person that has 5 individual dimension perspective. You know what I'm saying? So it has 5 dimensions, control over 5 densities, 5 bodies, and it can perceive 5 realms of realities within one realm of reality. If you kind of understand what I'm saying. Like for an example, you only perceive things from a single point of view, so it's subjective. So even if you want to say you understand how someone else thinks, based upon pattern, like I said, Fibonacci and going back all to that, that's the only reason. And the squares and anything lower than the triangle, that's the only and the triangle is still a pattern. That's the only reason you can understand where somebody is coming from. You know what I'm saying? But without the pattern, it's always fresh and new, so you won't know. So this is more of a spiritual free nature, right? So when we want to talk about as far as the star beings, they have 5 of these. So for an example, it won't be just an individual perspective, like the same way how you could just try to think, but you only could think what someone else think based upon pattern. It'll be a perspective of the way you have your way of thinking, and you have a whole bunch of other ways of thinking that you know for sure other people think that way. It's almost like you have control over that way of thinking. So like, for an example, like you got your only way of thinking. So the only way you know another person's way of thinking is due to pattern, but it's still subjective. You only truly can size up what another person is thinking based upon how you think about it. But a person could come and tell you, prove you wrong every day, right? So that's one triangle. Think about 5 triangles. You got this perception. All right, now look, with the one triangle, say it's a lot of people who think like you in the world that you just don't come across. But it's just a lot of people, you may not come across these people because it's an individual thing, and then they may not truly think like you. Now think about it like this. You got control over 5 individual broad concepts. So you got this way of thinking, that way of thinking, that way of thinking. So it's almost like all of these is you. That's getting into the mind state of like a 5-pointed star. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, 5th dimensional beings, which is planets, give their knowledge down to the 4th dimensional beings, which is oversouls, which y'all would look at as like moons. Moons is on their way to becoming planets, or moons are like nebulas or asteroids, things like this. These are like oversouls. You know what I'm saying? These is like a feminine nature. You know, they're like satellites, and they kind of pass off. They receive information and absorb it and hold it in until they become big enough to. And a lot of them is bigger. Like some never become planets and stars, but they could be just as big as them, like oversouls. You know what I'm saying? Some like to stay oversouls. They're like moons. A lot of females is this, but a lot of males is like Tupac. He's an oversoul. Anybody who got mass emotional passes or attention that can control emotional arousement. And if it's a person who know how to do this and they have passed on, that they are prominent oversouls. Like you may be able to see them in the sky at a Pacific time, slowly but surely as time go on, evolutionary wise. You see what I'm saying? But everybody become an oversoul to the point, but how much you are remembered, or what kind of effect you had on the world, or what kind of emotional arousement you have, and how large of an impact is going to determine how big or small of a source. And it depends on your idea also. Whatever, if you're putting a bunch of your emotions and feelings and vibrations into some type of shape and form on this earth that you're trying to do, especially if it's controlled by another intellectual person or spirit, you know what I'm saying, and you're putting yourself in these programs, then you put yourself in a situation where you get caught in this rotation. So you become an oversoul, but an oversoul that's only attached to this rotation. You don't go off and travel nowhere else. And if it's any piece of animosity or any piece of disliking or any piece of experience that you didn't like that involved that pattern that you was putting so much attention into, then that's gonna manifest bigger also. So you're gonna keep yourself in that kind of rotation, so to the point that you create a hell for yourself. So even be careful about money, because your way of getting money is the problem, not money itself. So you may be putting yourself through a bunch of ups and downs, a bunch of dumbass experiences, manifesting a bunch of dumbass shit just to get the money, and really the money wasn't the problem. It's your value you put to it, and all the attention and the money you put to it. So the actual paper and the money was being absorbed by the universe and God. What's being absorbed in is all the experiences that you're manifesting in order to get that. So just think about all the compromising you're doing, all the people, places, and things that you're dealing with in order to do this, all the things that you're just setting aside, like, man, I know I shouldn't, but I'm doing this, to the point that you don't even have to put all that energy into that money like that. But see, the money was the goal, but the energy that you're putting into it to get that is going elsewhere. It's going into a whole bunch of other shit here to get that. And see, once you go into that, those are what's being taken shape and form. So just you gotta hope and pray to motherfucker. And I don't agree to those terms and conditions of hope and pray. But I hope your mind is on is in a place where some of these shape and forms that you're manifesting is attached to money, at least, so that whatever you're compromising with and pushing to the side in order to get some money, at least that you can experience little to nothing of the end goal. But some of these things we be taking shape and form as this what we think is going to get us the end goal, but you're just wasting your time, and you may not ever get the end goal, especially if the end goal is money. And some of these shapes and forms and situations and circumstances you're creating don't even have that attached to it. Is this an illusion, a light that may be used by a specific person that has a certain spirit within them, if it's just not their spirit themselves, and utilizing certain planets like how that person is carrying out in this existence, so they give them certain lights and illusions and give them certain influences that they can create certain lights and illusions and give off those same lights and illusions on the other people. Then y'all get blind into those lights and illusions and shapes and things, and then the vibrations of it based upon what planet the influence it came from. Then y'all get lost into that. Then how it's packaged and prettied up, right? It'll make you think that that's the shape and form, and that's the experiences you need, the portals you need to walk through in order to get the end goal. The goal at the end of the rainbow, and if the end goal is money, you have to make sure that with that shape and form that's pretty and packaged as the illusion that you're blinded by, you have to make sure that that's actually attached to money. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times you got people who made that out of the illusions and lights out of shit and presented it packaged up, and it's just the illusion, and it might be packaged like for an example, that's like vitamins and shit like that, or when you go to the doctors they give you medication and shit like that. That's something that's packaged up in an illusion to make you think that is helping. That shit ain't getting you from point A to point B. This shit ain't getting you from point A to point B. These big ass pills ain't getting me from point A to point A, making my stomach no better. See what I'm saying? So this is what you have to understand. You just have to really understand and really understand the concept. It's just an illusion. But once you understand and filter through the illusion and see the darkness behind it, and see how that light was even made up in the first place before it took the shape and form, go in the shapeless form, before the gas, before the cells, before the lights, before the densities in the vibration frequency realm. Once you see what's behind the scenes, behind the veil, you know what I'm saying, go into your 8th house a little bit so you can know how you go behind the 8th house, so you can know how you go behind the veil by utilizing your 8th house and 12th house and shit in your 4th house. Then that's how you specifically do it. Everybody got their own way of doing it. And then, you know, that's why it's good to know thyself. And then you can actually see, okay, I see how this light, I see what this light is made of. I see what the elements and frequency vibrations, because every star is different. Every light is different. You know what I'm saying? This light may give off a different light. Like it was a time where on Earth that before Earth and Saturn is what created a lot of this shit that you see in between. It was a time it was just Earth and Saturn. You know what I'm saying? And the beings that was here was seeing Saturn, you know. Then as evolution go, we started to spread out because of the expansion and contraction. Then like I said, in between, other shit start getting birthed out based upon Saturn and Earth's relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to go as far as to saying this, but there's a lot of mythology, even spiritual mythology, even dealing with, you know, Saturn being the father and the sun being the son of Saturn. You see what I'm saying? And Mother Earth. And Earth was once a moon of Saturn, which is the feminine female of Saturn. You see, it goes deep to a lot of different circumstances and situations. And once they started fucking, they started adding a lot of shit. And this is where y'all get the cataclysms or the catastrophic stories. But it was really just Saturn colliding with Earth, but it wasn't really colliding how y'all think is destroying. It was actually them fucking and them creating different asteroids and different planets in between. So you start to get Venus and Mercury and shit like that, and this is where you start to get all the family stories of the Greeks and the Mesopotamians and Egyptian stories. All that come from the planets, the stars. Don't get lost into the names and the deities that they're trying to call these things. All these things are just spirits and bodies. Same way you are a spirit and a body. A planet ain't nothing but a spirit and a body. When you see a constellation, that ain't nothing but a whole bunch of bodies. And the smaller being you are on the evolutionary scale, right, you may see a whole bunch of things as just one. But really, one thing can control an organization. Same way you have the head of a corporation. That head of a corporation controls the whole corporation. But it takes every piece, every employee to run every section of the corporation. So look at your body like that. You the biggest shapeless formless spirit that run the biggest organ in your body, which is the brain, right? Now you have a bunch of different employees that you have a bunch of different employees that you then added to yourself, right, as body pieces, constellation, stars, cells, whatever you want to call them, right, organs, or whatever you want to call them. You have hired a bunch of employees to keep your system running, to keep your whole organization running. Now, a lot of times, the business and the corporation, as so long, it start to change and transform because new businesses come, new things. And, your business get old. So if you ain't adding new corporations to your business, you know what I'm saying? This is like you get old, your fingers might start not working no more, your legs stop working and things of that nature. Employees is getting old and dying now. You know what I'm saying? So, the corporation, you still rich off your corporation. You can sit back and enjoy your fruits and labor, but you can't do everything and organize the way it was organized before. So that's the same, you see what I'm saying? It's the same way you have to look at everything. And that's what the triangle is trying to explain to you. And as far as on the evolutionary scale, as spiritual beings and spiritual beings picking certain bodies that best resonate with the experience that their spirit vibration and their soul has been through. So you being a human right now and you being a triangle being, that lets you know that you have experienced here a whole bunch of times. And on the evolutionary scale, you have evolved because you have added a lot of employees to your whole organization as you being the corporation, right? You being the god of your whole universe, you being a corporation, you didn't hire so many employees that your system is running now. You see what I'm saying? So but you still is perceived to lesser beings. Say somebody who don't know nothing about no business, know nothing about running no organization, right? They're just gonna see McDonald's. They're not thinking about the corporation, the people who work there, the people who usher in the money to get the buildings built around the world. They just know that, okay, when I go on McDonald's, there's going to be employees that work here, whatever like that. But the average Joe is not thinking about that. They're just thinking like, okay, McDonald's make McDoubles or Big Macs. I'm about to go get a Big Mac because McDonald's make Big Macs. So McDonald's is a corporation as a whole. But you're not getting into who run it, who the corporation. You see what I'm saying? That's just like the same way science people call humans or mankind. But they don't never get into the micro macro of it. They don't never get into that. Okay, it's your body, but who's running who's the head of the corporation and who's running all the organizations and shit like that. And you done went and got hired a bunch of employees from a bunch of different locations. Just like they say, Mexicans work real hard, Africans and Haitians got like 20 jobs at one time. You know what I'm saying? Asians, they probably only got one job, but that one job helped the evolution of their whole economy because of their technology and shit like that. So just think about your corporation. If you thought like that with your corporation inside you and you wasn't just so separate, you know what I'm saying? You just think everything is separate, so in you is separate. You know what I'm saying? Your kneecaps are separate from you and everything is separate, whereas you is just one body and it is separate. But at the same time, you is a whole corporation. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at the head space, this might be China or America or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at the third world countries and shit like that, that's your genital areas and shit like that. Everything is the same thing. Earth, it's all the same. So getting back to this, I don't want to lose sight. But getting back to the triangle and the square, the triangle and the square being. So just start paying attention. Look at all animals. You can look at certain birds that's different. You got the birds that's on the ground and the birds that's fly, and then you have certain birds that stand up straight when they fly and things of that nature. When you look at the eagles, but then you look at crouching birds. See, it's a different evolutionary scale for all species. But this triangle and the square and the triangle beings let you know what evolutionary scale and how much intellect that you have. The lesser pieces you need to perceive the perspective, that means the higher on the evolutionary scale, and 9 times out of 10 you may have already been in the previous shape. Flight boss, bitch, goddamn air.